Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back to Continental Aspire Soccer. Remember to follow us on all of our socials and check out our website because you will find some handy information that you can't find elsewhere. 2021 is the year we are putting our stamp on the mark, so watch out for us. Today we are yet again covering an underspoken topic, the MLS. Since David Beckham moved to LA Galaxy in 2007, football, or soccer, has exploded in the United States. With the help of TV deals, investment from the Red Bull Group and City Football Group, and more stars moving to the USA, popularity and competition has soared in the 14 years since Beckham's big move. Being from Europe, though, can lead to the MLS being isolated in our minds when looking at the best players and teams in the world. Today though, we are going to explain the quality of the MLS in 2021 and which players to watch out for in future, and even some that have proved the USA is a great place to establish your talent. The MLS was founded in 1993, making it a very young football league. It incorporates teams from both America and Canada and has 23 teams in the top flight. These include New York Red Bulls, New England Revolution, Columbus Crew, DC United, CF Montreal Impact, Toronto FC, New York City FC, Portland Timbers, LA Galaxy, LAFC, and bringing it full circle, David Beckham's new club, Inter Miami. A lot of these teams are fairly well known, but despite the size of the league, it is surprisingly small in some ways. The MLS has a market value of around £700 million, which may sound like a lot, but that is £200 million less than the Eredivisie in the Netherlands. The TV figures are still small too, with the MLS Cup final bringing in just over 1 million viewers in 2019, which still ranks behind hockey, baseball, American football and basketball as most liked sports in the USA. The league works very differently to the most traditional football leagues too. Rather than simply playing each other twice and the winner being the team with the most points, the MLS has a cup system. See, the MLS is actually split into two conferences, the Eastern and the Western. This is so teams do not have to travel thousands of miles for different games. There are 3 teams from Canada, which are Montreal Impact, Toronto FC and Vancouver Whitecaps, with the rest of the teams being from the USA. Clubs will play a team in their own conference twice, like normal, once at home, once away, and then they will play 10 teams from the other conference, 5 games at home and 5 games away. The top 7 sides from both conferences will then play in a knockout tournament, until 2 teams are left to play in the MLS Cup final, usually set in December. 5 MLS teams also qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League, competed against Caribbean and Central American teams. In the 11-year history, no MLS side has won the competition. So it's quite the complicated structure. However, it does cater towards a large country and it breeds some heavy competition. Some teams have gone on to claim a fairly decent sized status and attracted some really big names. Because America is one of the most advanced and populated countries in the world, this has allowed the implementation of modern sports science very quickly. Top experts from other American sports have transferred over to soccer over the past 2 decades, helping the MLS rapidly grow. This has caught the eye of some powerful players. The first major moves came in 2006, when New York Metro Stars were taken over by the Red Bull Group, the same group responsible for takeovers in Leipzig, Salzburg and even more recently, Brazil. Red Bull cited the New York-based club as a great spot to invest and become a hub for American young talent. As a business, they could thrive off nearby populace from Manhattan and New Jersey, and they could also ship good players to clubs in Leipzig and Salzburg to have a career in Europe. The New York Red Bulls' main rivals are that of New York City FC, a club that is also backed by a multinational conglomerate. This is the City Football Group, which centres into Manchester City in England. They own a New York-based team, and the game between the New York Red Bulls and New York City FC has actually evolved into a fairly fierce derby. More recently, billionaire Joe Mansueto bought the team Chicago Fire for $400 million for 100% ownership in 2019. This is a true sign of the times, with more American businessmen turning their attention to soccer as a rapidly growing sport. And of course, everything has come full circle as David Beckham's Inter Miami side will play in the 2021 season of the MLS. They will play with a range of veterans and youngsters like Gonzalo Higuain plus Blaise Matuidi and the young upcoming Matthias Pellegrini. This younger generation of MLS players is a bit more of a modern trend now though. The MLS actually has a reputation for being a retirement home for European greats. This is because, following Beckham, Rooney, Defoe, Tim Cahill, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, Bastian Schweinsteiger and more all moved to MLS clubs in their early 30s. There is certainly an appeal, if you're Steven Gerrard, to why not move to LA Galaxy and receive good wages while being able to play competitively. However, in recent years, the MLS has done better at bringing in players with stronger potential, something which has brought more money into the league through transfers and more pedigree plus quality. Teams like DC United have attempted such efforts for a few seasons now, but only in the past couple of seasons has there been real success across the league. And the biggest success story is without a doubt Miguel Almiron. The Paraguayan was bought to Atlanta United from Argentina for £6.7 million and was sold to Newcastle in 2018 as a 22-year-old for over £20 million. Alfonso Davis is another such player, and perhaps more of a success story in terms of quality. Davies came through the ranks at Vancouver Whitecaps in Canada and was sold at 18 years old to Bayern Munich for £9 million. He is now worth over £60 million as one of the hottest talents in Europe. There are a few more examples of this pattern too. Zach Stefan, the Manchester City goalkeeper, moved from Columbus Crew in 2019 as a 24-year-old. Stefan is an American who has moved in and around the lower reaches of the league and even joined FC Freiburg in 2015 on a free transfer. However, after struggling to make an impact in Germany, Columbus Crew bought the goalie back for another free transfer and ended up making a £6 million profit when they sold the player on to the Etihad. Stefan had made 84 appearances for Columbus Crew between 2017 and 2019, and his 26 clean sheets is what caught the eye of Manchester City. This trend has now seen teams outfitted with a greater balance of more promising youngsters and still a range of more experienced players. While players like Almiron and Matt Miazga, Josie Altidore and Tim Ream have somewhat arguably failed to make it properly in Europe, at least up to expectations, the more recent transfers show the quality is improving. Jack Harrison went on loan to New York City FC from Manchester City before being sold to Leeds, and this spell in the MLS has been described as a vital part of his development into what is now considered a good Premier League footballer. Of course, Alfonso Davis is a stern example of a great player coming from the far west, but there are more. Jonathan David moved from Canada to Belgium and now France and is regarded as one of the most exciting players in Europe. The players scouted from Red Bull like Tyler Adams have also clearly been helped by playing in the MLS, not held back. What has effectively happened is that the story of Freddie Adu will not happen again. Adu was an American player touted to be the next Pele in the early 2000s. But he completely flopped when moving to Benfica in 2007 from Real Salt Lake City. It had clearly been a cloudy experience evaluating Adu's talent from across the pond. Now though, the MLS is one of the most modern, booming leagues in world football. The combination of sports science and rapid development of the game combined with players like Thierry Henry and others moving to the MLS in the early years to set the standard has bore fruit. This was of course helped by teams beginning to turn away from which ageing European star could they buy and instead looking to places like Mexico and South America to bring in more interesting younger players. And with that, we can now evaluate the hottest young talents rocking about in the MLS right now. When we're talking about standout under 23 players, we cannot ignore Donovan Pines. The 22-year-old American is a 6'4" centre-back who last season for DC United played 16 times in the MLS. He won over 70% of his tackles and headers and made just one error. He even grabbed 3 goals, but he is yet to be earmarked as a player for European clubs. The same cannot be said of Barnsley loanee Daryl Dyke, who is on loan from Orlando City in the Championship. He captured attention from the English side for scoring 8 times in 17 MLS appearances as a 20-year-old. He's made 5 appearances for Barnsley since moving in the January transfer window of 2021 and has already scored for the club. And the final player to talk about is LAFC's Diego Rossi. The Uruguay forward is yet to play for his country, but that time will not be far away for the soon-to-be 23-year-old. He managed 16 goals in the MLS in 2020 across 21 starts, as well as 4 assists. He fires off 3.3 shots per game, and just 2 goals came from penalties. 17 big chances missed suggest Rossi could get even better. Valued at £18 million and being linked to Reading in England, perhaps Rossi is the next player to burst into the European scene from the MLS.